What's going on, guys? Welcome back to an episode of Money Talks with Drace. Don't forget to hit the bell, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Instagram at Money Talks with Drace. So we're starting to get into our investing video series. Let's start talking about one of the most common accounts, which is called the 401k, or also known as the 403b if you work for the government or a state employee. So let's talk about the 401k. First of all, got a couple questions I pulled up here. Let's figure out who qualifies for a 401k. So to get a 401k, you have to have it. It's an employee-sponsored account. So basically your employer has to offer this 401k. Now, if you work for yourself, you're self-employed. There's other various types of 401ks, a solo 401k, a SEP, IRAs, and stuff like that. Right now, we're going to focus more on just a traditional 401k, 403b that your employer offers. So let's talk about the facts of the 401k. So for 2020, your contribution limits, if you're under 50 years old, is up to $19,500. That's how much money you can put away in this account. If you're over 50, the government lets you put an additional $6,000 in, which is called a catch-up contribution. So, let your parents know if they wanted to contribute more than that $19,500, they do have the option to put another $6,000 in. Now, let's pull up some of my facts here that I got. All right, so one of the great things about the 401k, there's no income limits. So other investing accounts that we're going to talk about later have some limitations based on how much income you make. The 401k, there's no limitation on incomes. You could be making $1 million, you're making $30,000, and you can still contribute up to this $19,500. So that's a great plus for that account. Another great thing about the 401k is that it will automatically come out of your paycheck. And trust me, we should make a whole different video about automating your finances, because the less you have to think about it, the easier it's going to be. So I believe in one of my videos I talked about how saving up money is similar to being on a diet, where you can be strict with yourself, but eventually you might get loose. But if you automate this and the money just gets withdrawn from your paycheck before it even hits your bank account, it doesn't really affect you as much. You don't have to think about it. And you can set this up for other accounts, but the 401k, it automatically does that for you. So it's one of the easiest ones to start investing with and not even feel like it's changing anything of your life. Now, another great feature that not every company offers, so this is something you guys got to do that research, is called the company match. Now, some companies will offer you an incentive for putting money away. They'll actually match up to a certain percent. So, for example, they say we'll match 5% of your contribution. So if you say you contribute up, say 8%, they'll contribute up to 5%, which is great because it's free money. It's 100% free money. You're making 100% return on your money. There's no way you can lose there. So if you do have a 401k, make sure that you find out if your company is offering a match, and to make sure that you're at least contributing up to that match to get that free money. You don't want to leave any money on the table. Now, some companies don't offer the match, so you have to start looking into it. Does your company even offer a match? If they don't, this might be something that you might want to avoid the 401k as one of your first accounts to start investing in. Usually the best way to start with it is because it's so easy to sign up for it and because of the match. If they don't offer the match, you might consider going to the IRA, which is one of our next videos. Now, one of the downsides of the 401k is that the investing options are limited. So sometimes every company is different. Every company offers different funds that they will offer you to be invested in. It's not always the best option. So I know every single company will offer you the list of all the companies. So I need you guys to look up all the investments that your companies offer. Take a look at the performance, the past performance for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, and compare that to at least one of the benchmarks, which is the S&P 500. So take a look at what the S&P 500 did over that same exact time. If those funds are not outperforming or at least matching the S&P 500, you might want to think about not investing into those, because they're not outperforming and they are costing you more money because of the fees associated. So that gets us into our next subject. Look into all the fees that are associated with each type of investment. Every single mutual fund that is inside your 401k has a different fee based on the type of account that it is. So let's make sure you guys are looking at these fees. And right now we're in a very low fee environment. So let's look for anything that's below 0.08. on the fees. If you see anything higher than 0.08, you might start thinking this might not be the best investment because you're investing, but a lot of your money is going to the fees of just managing that 401k. So let's take a look at the historic performance, compare it to the S&P 500. If it's not outperforming it, you might want to skip over to the next one and also see what the fees are associated with. If it's higher than 0.08, most of the stuff that I invest in is around 0.04. So the fees are really low, but I'm just throwing a number out there, 0.08, take a look. And go just one by one. There's probably isn't more than 20 options. So it's not going to take you guys a long time. Take a look at each single one, compare it to S&P 500, check out the fees, and see what the options are. Sometimes none of them will outperform the S&P 500, which is just the general market, just the top 500 companies in the United States. So if you're not outperforming the market or meeting it, why are you paying more money to be invested in it? So make sure you do that balance. And the train's coming by. Okay. Now, some 401ks offer what's called a self-directed option. Now, for example, in my 401k, they have it's linked to TD Ameritrade, so I can actually put money in my 401k, move it into a TD Ameritrade account, which opens up my investment options. I can invest in multiple more ETFs. I can't invest in single individual stocks because that's a limitation of mine, but I get access to a lot of mutual funds, a lot of ETFs that my company doesn't offer directly. So if that's an option that you guys might have, take a look, see if they have a self-directed option. And you guys can basically put the money in the 401k, move it into another account, and then you'll have the options to invest in many, many different ETFs and mutual funds. Now, another thing you're going to see in the 401k a lot is called a target fund. So you'll see the word target fund and then a number right after it. So these funds are usually they actually usually default you into one of these for the year closest that you are to retire. So maybe 2050, 2055, 2060, depending on how old you are. And as the years go by, they become less aggressive. So they start aggressive. So they might start with like 80% stocks, 20% bonds. As the years go by, when you get closer to your retirement age, it might be 90% bonds, 10% stocks. So it's a good kind of what's the word I'm looking for? So if you're someone that wants to be more offhand and just let it ride, you can start investing into one of these target funds. It's easy. It'll automatically start shifting the money as you get older into safer bonds. But just take a look at the fees associated with. If you don't want to be somebody that actively looks at your 401k, maybe this would be the best option for you. And if you guys want to get more in depth into any of these things that I'm talking about, shoot me a DM, say, can we go a little deeper into that, so I know that you guys, what topics, I can talk to you either personally or make some more videos about. One thing that I forgot to mention about the company match is that sometimes your company will have a vesting period where, yes, they'll match up to potentially 5% of your income, but you have to work at the company for a certain amount of time for you to get that full 5%. After a certain amount of time, you might get 50% of that if you decide to leave before in a certain amount of time. So just make sure you know that if you're somebody that's jumping from job to job and you're seeing that they're doing matches, but you're leaving, you might have to actually give some of that money back from your 401k because you didn't meet the vesting period. So just make sure you check out the rules and regulations for your company on that. So also, if you're somebody that has had multiple jobs and has had different 401ks, you can roll one 401k into another so that you can have them all in the same place. If you start having 401ks in different places, you actually might forget about them. The first company I ever worked for, I actually left the 401k there. It's okay to leave it there, but you forget about it. And only until I started getting more serious about investing did I actually go look at what actually was in there. I did the same thing for my wife. We both had old 401ks, and we decided to roll them into our Roth IRAs, which I'll talk about in a future video. But you can convert it directly into your 401k, and there'll be no tax implications. So that's always an option. It's nice to have it consolidated. And if you don't go into the 401k, make sure that you can also roll it into a traditional IRA, which you won't incur any taxes as well. But if you have a lot of 401ks out there, you might actually lose track of them and just be leaving money out there. So make sure you stay on top of that, consolidate them, or roll them into an IRA. Now let's talk about Roth versus traditional 401ks. Now, not all companies offer a Roth 401k, and what Roth really means is post-tax. So that means that you actually pay the taxes and then put the money into the 401k. That money then grows tax-free, and when you take it out when you retire, it is also tax-free because you pay the taxes up front. Now, if you're somebody that just started working and your income is not as high, this is something you might want to take advantage of because your tax rate might be lower right now versus when you retire later, you might be in a higher tax rate. So you might want to pay the taxes now and let that money grow tax-free, and when you take it out, it'll also be tax-free. Now, in traditional 401ks, you actually don't pay taxes on that money. So you actually get a tax break when you actually file your taxes. So however much money you put in, that comes off of your contribution. So say you make $50,000 a year and you put in $5,000 into your 401k. When you go do your taxes, you're only getting taxed on $45,000 of that money, not the whole $50,000. So you get that tax break there. But that money does grow, but when you actually withdraw it, when you go to retire, that's when you have to pay the taxes. So is a strategy that you guys can do. It's great to have both if it's an option. Not every company even offers it, so start looking into it. And depending on your situation, if you're in a lower income bracket, you might want to consider doing the Roth 401k. If not, and you actually want to take that tax break now, go with the traditional 401k. All right, and last, let's talk about withdrawals. So I know the 401k isn't sexy. It's a long-term investment. It's something that you really should just be using for retirement. So to not have any fees, the earliest you can take this money out is 59 and a half. So it's a long time away. So like I mentioned, not sexy at all, but essential to when you retire. So just know that that's the earliest that you can retire without having to pay any fees. If you do withdraw money before, you will be subject to, I believe, at least 10% penalty, plus you have to actually pay income tax on it. So I wouldn't consider doing it. I also wouldn't advise you guys taking loans out of your 401k either. That should really be your last resort if you can't get money anywhere else, but I wouldn't advise it. And again, I haven't talked about direct investments, but I know I have to make my disclaimers that this is for entertainment and educational purposes. If you guys do want to do some serious investing, make sure you talk to a certified CPA or an accountant for that. All right, I think that's going to do it for the 401k account. So if you guys have any additional questions, make sure you reach out at Money Talks with Drace on Instagram. Make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share this video on IGTV for somebody that needs to learn more about personal finance. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.